you're up next, sir. Hello.
Hey Bert, how's it going?
Pretty good, man.
So this is a 3-5 hand, played out of Grayton Resort and Casino, which I learned this year was the origin of Brad Owen. So I actually played in his beat up game a couple months ago. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've played a Grayton before. 251K, Indian Casino.
That's what it's 1500 max
Oh,
now for
well,
the 3-5.
is it 3-5? Is it a drop, do you know, or a rake?
It is a drop. It's like,
Even though it's an Indian Casino?
yeah, it is a drop. So it's like if there's no flop, then they drop $1. And if there's a flop, then it's like five. And I think it's by the river, it's like 6 or 7.
Yeah, more on this, like I said, in a chopping video that will come out and also at the end of this particular live stream. Okay, so Grayton 3-5, 1500 max
It always bugs me when people don't chop because I'm like, really? Like,
in a drop game.
drop, you still don't want to chop?
Crazy. Yeah.
Anyway,
Especially if they're taking a modified amount anyways, if you raise and take it. Yeah.
right. So, yeah, it's 3-5. We're about 1300 effective. I think it was seven-handed. It was like 6 or 7-handed. There was only one 3-5 table. It was Wednesday night, and like people would come and go. And so anyway, I think it's like seven-handed. And I'm under the gun. I straddled the 10.
Okay.
The straddle was not on every hand, but a lot of people were straddling, so I figured I'd straddle because it was good for the game. So I straddle. It folds around to the button. Button calls.
Button limps.
Yeah, the button calls the 10.
Okay.
The small blind folds, and the big blind, who's the main villain, he's like a 65, 70-year-old guy. He calls, or he limps also. And then I look down. I have Ace Jack offsuit. The suits don't really matter. I don't have a heart. That matters. So I have Ace Jack offsuit, and I make it 45. And the button folds, and the big blind calls.
So button limps, big blind calls, button open limps in a straddle pot. Kind of
Yeah.
bizarre. Big blind in the middle guy calls. You raise. I'm going to put ace of clubs, jack of diamonds to 45. Button folds, and the big blind calls.
Yep.
That's again. What's the deal with the guy in the big blind? Because that's very, very strange.
So yeah, it is kind of strange.
Because what if he's got a hand that's strong enough to like limp call? Wouldn't he just want to raise against the button limp? I can't imagine how I would ever be in this situation if I was in the big blind.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think I probably should have taken that into account more than I did, like later in the hand. But anyway, so he didn't open, like he just limped and then he limp called. And the flop comes out, Jack 10 4, Jack of clubs, 10 of hearts, 4 of hearts.
Okay, so Jack 10 4. So you flop top pair, top kicker with the shoe hearts out there. Okay.
Yep. So there's like flush draws and straight draws on the
Yep.
board. So big blind checks. I bet 50. I just bet half pot, and he check raises to 150.
I would probably go larger because I don't think you're going to get called by like pairs, like if he's got a limp or ace highs on this board. This kind of reminds me of another call that we did earlier but on this one, you're not getting called by like 6 or 7, but it doesn't matter though. So that's why I would go larger. I mean, you're probably going to get called by Jack X and 10X for the most part too. So I probably would have gone 80 as opposed to half pot. But you go 150 and you guys are 1500 effective. So you have
1300. But yeah, we're still pretty deep.
You're 1300 effective?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So 1300 effective. By the way, talking about same bet from the previous call. So if you call here, if you were to call here, this brings up a really good same bet example. If you were to call and then like the turn's like a, say, deuce of spades, right? And he bets like 150 again, you almost always have the best hand. That's the whole same bet concept. I assume you called?
Yeah, I called. I figured I obviously didn't want to raise because that doesn't make any sense. If he's bluffing, I want to let him keep bluffing.
I don't know, actually. And I wouldn't necessarily wash over that. I think you could make a case here for, I mean, it's 3-5 and usually, and people don't have a lot of experience in these blind versus blind types of situations. I mean, more often than not, I would call, but you could 3-bet and play for stacks here. I think, especially if he never has Jack or 10-10. Now, obviously, you're losing to pocket fours. And it's interesting because
Yeah.
the only thing I would say, though, it's kind of interesting. Like, you know, you look at this and you're like, oh, I'd rather have like an overpair here. And that would be true. This one's kind of close because obviously if you had like aces, you have a lot more equity than like versus like a hand like king, queen, some sort of mega, mega draw or something like that, because the overcards aren't good for the guy. But with having ace jack, you block him having jacks up too. So it kind of goes back and forth in this particular spot. Like you block him having like jack 10. I mean, obviously I think I would probably do more calling more often than not here and seeing what develops with a turn card.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the value hands I thought he could maybe have here are pocket fours or like jack 10. I don't think any other things make sense because he would open with jacks or tens, right? Like, and then he could have a lot of draws. Like he could have some pretty big draws. So I thought, okay, well, let's see how I called, and I figured I'd see how the board came out. And the turn is interesting. The turn was the ace of diamonds. So now I have the pot at 400, and
Before you tell me what's going to happen, so I'll put up the ace of diamonds here, but before you tell me what's going to happen, it looks like you have about 1,100 left in your stack, right?
yep, yeah, we have 11. He has a 1,100 and change, and I haven't covered.
Okay. So what if the turn was like a deuce of clubs or deuce of spades? Just a total brick. And he came out and he bet close to pot. Like he came out and he bet like 300 or 400. I'm just doing the math because if you were to just call of close to a, say like a pot size bet, like say he bet 400 on like a black deuce, right? You would, if you called that bet, the pot would be 1,200 and you would only have like about 600 left. I guess you have stacked up. I just wondered if you were you thinking about raising all in if it was a brick and he bet again, or did you feel like you had enough stacked up to call again?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think like this is where I'm still kind of adjusting to 3-5 because in 1-3 when people check raise, it's like pretty netted. Like I really want to fold when people check raise the flop. Like, and I think that in 3-5 people have more bluffs and they like are more willing to follow through with their bluffs. And I'm still kind of adjusting to that because like my default instinct is to be like, oh shit, I got check raised. I've only got one pair. Like I got to play really carefully here. But like here, I mean, now I've got two pair. Like I feel pretty good about that. But
Well, obviously now.
yeah, like I don't know. Like
Well, this is not a brick.
I don't know that I want to play first stacks with just ace jack like in this spot. I don't know. Maybe I should.
Well, let me ask you a question though. Is this a better card for you or a worse card for you? I mean, Jack 10 with the ace coming. I mean, now you beat Jack 10, right? But now you lose to King Queen.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure if it was good for me or bad. And the guy he bets 210 into 400. So I thought so he doesn't slow down because the ace comes. He keeps betting. So I thought, okay, well I lose to King Queen, but how can I possibly fold here? Like, and I don't really want to jam because I'm going to get a lot of information on the river, so I might as well just call. So I call.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the play here on this card. Hero calls, especially with King Queen coming in, and then if the river's a brick,
Doesn't he open King Queen though? That's kind of like what I'm wondering here, and that
you would think so. You would think so, but I've seen a lot of people like limp call with like King Queen off. And obviously, if the river's a brick and he checks, it's very easy. It's a very easy value bet. It is
definitely value bet if he checks on the river.
The thing that what this turn card does. I mean, when we're looking at hand reading, I'm going to put the pot up now because it goes 210 and call, so the pot's 820. But when we take a look at hand reading, and this is why you can sometimes call, like you called on the check raise, and you learn a lot more about the hand. When you take a look at hand reading, going back to the flop, there's like a range of hands that this guy might check raise with, right? Part of that range of hands might be some nut flush draws and maybe just some jack X. Maybe just some jack X, like king jack, queen jack, right? Then he also has, thick value, right? And he has other combo draws. When we look at a flop range, okay? Now as we move to the turn, when the turn's the ace and then he bets 210 after check raising, now I get to eliminate parts of the range. What am I eliminating? I'm eliminating the nut flush draw and I'm eliminating queen jack and king jack as see where I'm at raises. So that's how you do the hand reading from street to street. That's one of the ways you do it. You have to take every single action and the texture of every card and you start to discount portions of someone's range from a previous street. Okay, the pot now is $820.
Yep. And the river is an offsuit 6.
Okay, so I'm gonna put six of
So
spades.
6 of spades. That's what I put. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Oh, good guess.
So uh, he doesn't tank for very long. He thinks for like 5 or 10 seconds, and then he just verbally says all in
So he moves all in.
for slight overbet. Yeah, for 900 and change.
So it was right because he went 150. You guys started with what, right around 1300? You said,
Yep.
and you've put in about 400. Okay, so maybe like 900. All right, so all in
Yeah.
for like 900. Well,
And I didn't have a read on him.
here's
I didn't think he was an OMC. He definitely wasn't an OMC, but he was an old guy.
here's a couple thoughts. And again, like, believe me, I definitely am a huge advocate of overfolding or folding to a lot of aggression from an old guy, like someone putting in their entire stack in a
Yep.
given situation like this. The only thing that I would say is that King Queen as a mega draw, like King Queen of Hearts, I think that usually gets raised pre. Almost 100% that gets raised pre. So I tend to discount that. So would he just make this play with King Queen off? Now you even said to yourself, maybe King Queen, or like, there's 16 combos of King Queen. Let's assume that he raises all the suited ones, right? So he doesn't have a suited King Queen, so he doesn't have that mega combo draw. And then sometimes he probably raises some of the offsuit King Queens. And then you got to go down the line. How often would he play a limp King Queen like this pre? And then how often does King Queen off check raise here on the flop? Maybe sometimes, maybe King Queen with like the King of Hearts. So you're like, that's interesting. He's repping King Queen here. He really is repping King Queen. Now people might say, okay, he could have some pocket fours. He's not going to have jacks and tens. So maybe fours, maybe some King Queen. And then what are the other hands here? Now, there isn't anything that's worse that's ever going for value like this, which is a common theme on this show. So are there other combo draws that he could have here that are missed? 8-9 of hearts, Queen 9 of hearts, something like that. That's only 2 specific combos of hands. So, and you're getting about 2-1.
Yeah, I'm getting. So that's kind of. I tanked for a while, like for like a couple minutes, and I just kind of thought through the hand, replayed it in my head, and I thought, if I give him King Queen, if I give him like, I don't think I give him all 16 combos, but if I give him like a reasonable chunk of that, and I don't think he plays this aggressively with just any heart draw. Like I think it has to be some kind of combo draw. That was my instinct, and there aren't that many like big combo draws. There's Queen 9, and there's 9-8. And then I don't know, maybe there's like, I don't think he would play the nut draw that way because then he pairs, like then he has showdown value. So like maybe he doesn't jam on me.
I mean, some of the guys saying 8, Jack 10 or Ace 10, there's just no way.
I don't even think he plays like pocket fours this way because like
pocket fours is probably
Queen.
close. Yeah, pocket fours is probably close. Yeah.
So I think I beat like whatever value he might have, I beat except for King Queen.
I mean, I don't think you can 100% discount pocket fours, but
yeah, maybe not 100%, but I don't know.
I mean, the other problem, I mean, the other problem though is that a lot of times too in like live play, like does a guy, I mean, there might be a guy that he just never bluffs if he's he's never putting in his stack in like this, against, an older guy.
I wish I had like kind of given him like a stare down to see if I could get a read, but I was just thinking through it in my head, and I ended up concluding that like he has too much value, and I couldn't find enough like combo draw bluffs to account for the pot odds. So I told him like, hey man, like I'm making a big laydown here, so like just so you know. And then I said, and then I folded my hand, and he said, would you like to see it? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And he showed me Queen 9 of hearts.
Wow. So hero folds.
So I folded and he showed the bluff, which totally makes sense. But like, I guess I think I shared it in the Discord, and people were saying like, I think Nate said I'd probably call off here, and a couple people said I'd probably call off because like If we assume he raises with king queen, then like then he doesn't have that much value, and I should probably call. But yeah, I was like, well, good bluff, sir. He got it through, and
Now, just a couple other notes here. So when people are looking at like combos in your own hand when trying to make a call like this, if the caller had like pocket kings or pocket queens here, especially with a heart, and it goes down the same way. And the other thing, and the thing about this is that like you should absolutely not be folding the turn with kings or queens with a heart. Because in essence, again, we go back to the flop. If I had kings or queens, it's a range of hands that the guy had. He might be doing this with like kind of a find out where I'm at with Jack X if I had kings or queens. But then when the turn comes, I don't think he's got the nut flush draw that's going to get checked. So when he continues to bet, yeah, you're still behind some very, very thick value, like fours, if he even bets Jack 10 on the turn, but I would still call as I would pick up a gut shot with kings or queens. And now on the river, if you had kings or queens, now you put that together and then it becomes a much easier call just because like here with your ace jack, it's less of a call than with kings or queens. And a lot of people don't understand that because they're like, well, I have top two. You should be calling way more often with kings or queens here in your hand on this run out, especially with the heart in it, I would think, if he was structuring correctly.
Because then I would block the nuts.
Of course.
And I don't block the nuts at all. Yeah,
right. Of course.
That's made me pretty unhappy.
Yeah. Anyways, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Bart. I appreciate it.
All
Take
right.
care.